In the fog-drenched alleys of London, a phantom once walked. A faceless killer who struck without warning, vanishing into the mist, leaving behind only fear, blood, and legend. This is the story of Jack the Ripper. London's East End in 1888 was not the London of palaces and theatres, nor of gentlemen in fine suits. Whitechapel was overcrowded and underfed. Narrow streets twisted like veins through decaying buildings. Gas lamps flickered weakly, casting more shadow than light. The air was thick with the stench of horse manure, sewage, and rotting food. Nearly 80,000 people lived there, crammed into lodging houses and damp tenements. Entire families shared a single room. Mothers drowned infants they couldn't feed. Children begged or stole scraps. Alcohol dulled the pain, and gin palaces overflowed with the broken and desperate. Women sold themselves for pennies to earn a night's rent, and men drank themselves into oblivion. It was a place of misery and anonymity, the perfect hunting ground for a predator who could slip into the shadows unnoticed. The killings began in August. Mary Ann Nichols, known as Polly, was 43 years old. Her life had been hard, marked by poverty and drink. On the night of August 30th, she was turned away from her lodging house, unable to pay the few pennies required for a bed. She wandered Whitechapel Road, clutching her new bonnet and telling those who saw her that she would soon have her DOS money. Around 3:30 a.m., a cart driver named Charles Cross stumbled upon something in Bucks Row. At first he thought it was a tarp discarded in the street, but as he drew closer and his lantern flickered, the truth came into view. A woman lay on the cold cobblestones, her throat cut twice, her abdomen ripped open. Blood seeped into the cracks in the street. When police and a surgeon arrived, they noted the injuries were not wild or frenzied. They were deliberate, almost clinical. The killer had known exactly where to cut. News spread quickly, and by dawn crowds gathered in horrified curiosity. The press plastered headlines about a horrible murder in Whitechapel, but many assumed it was an isolated crime. They were wrong. A week later, on September 8th, the body of Annie Chapman was discovered in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street. Annie, frail and sickly at 47, had been seen only an hour earlier speaking with a man described as foreign-looking, wearing a dark coat and a deerstalker hat. Her body, however, told a far darker story. Her throat had been cut so deeply it nearly severed her head. Her abdomen was slashed open, her intestines pulled out and arranged over her shoulder in a grotesque display. Most chilling of all, her womb had been removed with precision. Dr. George Phillips, the attending surgeon, remarked that the killer must have possessed anatomical knowledge, perhaps a butcher, perhaps even a surgeon. The speed and accuracy of the mutilations suggested someone who knew what he was doing. This was no random act of violence. This was methodical. This was ritual. Whitechapel descended into panic. Women clutched knives in their aprons. Men formed patrols to stalk the alleys at night. The press nicknamed the killer Leather Apron, and fear spread like fire. But still he vanished into the fog unseen. The terror reached new heights on the night of September 30th, remembered forever as the double event. At 1 o'clock in the morning, the body of Elizabeth Stride was discovered in Dutfield's yard. Her throat had been cut, but there were no mutilations. Many believed the Ripper had been interrupted. Some witnesses reported seeing a man hurrying into the mist, perhaps escaping before he could finish his work. But only 45 minutes later, another body was found. This time, the killer had not been interrupted. Catherine Eddowes, age 46, lay dead in Mitre Square. Her throat had been cut, her abdomen torn open, her face carved into grotesque marks. Her nose was sliced away, her eyelids mutilated, her kidney missing. The violence was precise, calculated, and deeply cruel. Nearby, police discovered a piece of her blood-stained apron. Above it, scrawled on a wall, was a chilling message: "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." The police, fearing anti-Semitic riots, erased the message before it could be photographed. A clue, perhaps vital, lost forever. The double event cemented Jack the Ripper not just as a murderer, but as a phantom who could strike twice in one night and vanish without a trace. London was gripped by hysteria. Then came November 9th, and with it, the Ripper's most savage crime. Mary Jane Kelly was only 25 years old. the youngest of his victims. Unlike the others, she lived in her own room at Miller's Court. That night, neighbors heard her singing softly, a melancholy ballad drifting through the mist. By morning, silence. Her landlord, seeking overdue rent, forced open her door. What he found inside was beyond words. Mary Jane's throat had been cut, her body mutilated so savagely that her face was unrecognizable. Flesh had been stripped from her limbs, her organs scattered, her room drenched in blood. The bed itself was soaked through, a butcher's slab in a chamber of horrors. Hardened detectives recoiled. One staggered outside and vomited. Another swore never to describe what he saw. It was the Ripper's final known murder, and his most brutal. After Mary Jane Kelly, the murders ceased, but the fear did not. Letters flooded newspapers. Some mocked the police. One, signed Jack the Ripper, gave the killer the name that would endure forever. Another, the infamous From Hell letter, arrived with half a human kidney preserved in alcohol. Was it truly from the killer, or a sick hoax? No one could say. The police scrambled, chasing suspects across London. Aaron Kosminski, a disturbed Polish immigrant, was eyed. Montague Druitt, a barrister found drowned in the Thames, was considered. Michael Ostrog, a career criminal, was named. Others whispered of conspiracies, a member of royalty, a doctor in the Queen's service, a Freemason cover-up, but no one was ever charged, no trial was ever held. Jack the Ripper vanished back into the fog. 5 women, 5 brutal murders, a city paralyzed with fear, and yet no answers. The Ripper endures not because we know who he was, but because we don't. His shadow lingers in every dark alley, every echoing footstep behind us in the fog. His mystery feeds his immortality. To this day, tourists walk Whitechapel streets, standing where his victims once stood, wondering what it must have felt like to know a predator walked among them. And so, the legend remains, the next time you walk alone at night and hear footsteps behind you, don't look back. Because Jack the Ripper was never caught, and some say he still walks among us.